Welcome students to our introductory video on how you will be completing your flipped classroom homework. This is the only video that we will be watching together in class, I hope, because it makes for an awkward situation. I've actually already welcomed you to class, I think, and it's just interesting that I'm speaking to you through the speakers even though I'm behind you in the classroom. Now some of you are probably turning around in your seats to look at me, and I'm probably just, smirking at you, nodding my head. Pretty good, aren't I? Well, let's get down to it and talk about what do I expect for you when you're completing your homework assignments. This is just a small preview about what your finished work should look like after you complete one of my YouTube video homework assignments. You can see that it looks like we're working on a loose leaf. We include the date and the title at the top. We have sections for notes, examples, and practice. You can also see that I've got some green squiggles in there. I'm trying to show you where you're going to do some creative work in terms of what you copy down. That stuff is going to change video to video. But the words there, the date, title, notes, examples, and practice, those should be constant for every video. Now let's read through this slide and then I'll give you a little bit of time to actually copy down some notes. You can see that I've shown the date at the top. Today is August 26th of 2015, and I have math homework procedure at the top underlined. I will always include these things. This is our date that the video was recorded and also the title of the video. Now I'd like you on your homework sheets to always include the title of the video that you are completing a homework sheet for, but for the date I would like you to include the date that you actually watched it and completed the homework assignment. That will help keep us on track and keep us organized. On this page I've included a couple notes. The first is that the title and date are required on each and every homework assignment. Just want to reiterate that. Also, the date should be above the top line on the right side. You saw that on the previous page. Next, the title should be between the first two lines. I tried to show you with these little blue lines that the title will come between the first set at the top of the page, but the date actually sits above the top line, and you can see that right there. Then I have a few notes about what you will be expected to actually include in your notes section. The first note says that green text does not need to be written. The next says gold text needs to be summarized but not written exactly as it appears on the slide. And finally, red text must be written word for word. So you can tell that, well, this random coloring of this page starts to make a little bit more sense. That date at the top, the title, those are both in red. Those need to be on every single homework assignment. Then there's also some other notes on this page that I'm expecting you to take in the notes section, and the ones in red should be written word for word, and the ones in gold need to be summarized in a way that makes sense but is also clear for you. Now if you're watching this at home, you have the opportunity to pause because that's a lot of red you'll have to write down, probably more than usual, but for right now we're going to move on ahead. Just a few more notes for you. Again, this one is in gold, so it means that I'm expecting you to summarize this. That's a lot to write, so you don't have to do it word for word, just get the main points. It says, I will upload all videos to our YouTube channel. You can access videos by opening YouTube and searching for St. Pius X Mathematics. Once you find the channel, all of the class videos will be separated into individual playlists for 6th, 7th, and 8th grades. So each class will have your own playlist of videos that I expect you to complete. Let's move on. Hopefully you have that summarized. The next note we have is that 5 points can be earned for watching each YouTube video if students complete a homework sheet with 3 sections: notes, examples, and practice. You saw that on that second slide where I showed you what your finished product is going to look like. But again, right now we are in the process of just completing the notes section. We're just taking notes about what should be included on each homework sheet. But let's move on. What would the next section look like? The next section is examples. After I explain sort of what we're going to be using for a different math topic or concept, I'm going to give you an example, and I'm going to work through it with you. So here's example 1. We'll make this a separate section. You'll notice that the problem itself is in gold. That means I expect you to summarize the problem, but you don't need to write the problem word for word. Some of these can get kind of lengthy. I need you to pick out the main points that you're going to use when you solve it. So let's read it together. Students are wondering whether the flipped classroom will make them spend more time or less time on homework. Yeah, I believe that you are wondering that. Last year, students usually had about 15 problems each night, and each problem took about 3 minutes. I'm just throwing out some guesswork here. But we want to know, how much time did they spend on math homework each night last year? Alright, so if we're going to solve this problem, hopefully you notice that we have 15 problems each night and 3 minutes for each problem. So we need to include some notes. So on my page, I would probably write something like 15 problems. And then I would also write 3 minutes per problem. These are some notes that you can write down that will use to know what we're trying to do and what we're trying to solve. And we'll maybe say total time and wonder about it, because that's what our question is. And hopefully you can figure this one out. We know that if we're doing 15 problems and they each take 3 minutes, that's 15 groups of 3 minutes. And whenever I say groups, I always think multiplication. So this one we're just going to multiply 15 times 3. Some of you can probably do that in your head. If not, we'll do 3 times 5 and get 15 ones. 10 ones makes a 10. And 3 times 1 in the tens place makes 30, plus 1 more 10 is 40. So this is 45. And again, what are we wondering? We're wondering about total time, so that's 45 minutes. So this is the sort of work I would expect you to show when you're completing one of these problems. You got to show me what were you given, what you were working with, what calculation did you do. And then we're also going to want to give our answer in a complete sentence. So we should maybe say, students spent about 45 minutes each night. Forgive my bad handwriting, that's why I dictate everything to you as well. Alright, we're going to move on to the next example. Sometimes we'll just have one, other times we'll have two. You'll notice again at the top, number 2 is in red. I expect you to always label which problem or which example you're doing from the work. And this one says, with a flipped classroom this year, students think it will take them 1 minute to get loose leaf and supplies ready, 2 minutes to log on to the internet, 8 minutes to watch the video, and 5 minutes to complete the practice problem. How long do students expect to work on homework this year? Well, again, we need to include some of the important aspects. So in this case, we'll say get supplies was that 2 minutes? 1 minute, sorry. Log on, that took 2 minutes. Internets can be slow these days. 8 minutes to watch. And 5 minutes to actually do the practice problem at the end. Hopefully you notice that this is an addition problem. We're adding up the different parts to get the total time. And in this case, we can show our work and maybe change numbers around, use compatible numbers. I know that 8 and 2 makes 10, and we'll also have to add the 5 and the 1. But when we add these, I see that the 8 and the 2 makes 10, plus 5 is 15, plus 1 more is 16. So again, we want to put a sentence to talk about our final answer. Students can expect 16 minutes per homework. Great, we've knocked out our 2 examples. Let's move on again. Practice. Now practice number 1. These are the problems I leave you with at the end of a video, and I want you to try these on your own before you bring in your homework sheet to show me. These are the ones I'm not going to do the work with you during the video. I'm not going to show you the final answer. I want you to give it a shot on your own, and so we can go over that together, and that's a good starting point for us. This one says, if you had 45 minutes worth of homework after 150 school days last year, how many minutes did you spend doing homework during the course of the school year. So that's supposed to be if you had 45 minutes worth of homework each after each of 150 school days. How many minutes did you spend doing homework during the course of the year? So that's what I would leave with you to solve on your own. The final thing I'm going to leave you with during this video is just a little image of maybe what your completed note sheet should look like when you're done with this video. So I kind of worked backwards here. This is what we want to see on the first page. Again, we have the date at the top right, above the top line. We have the title, which is between the first two blue lines. We have a notes section right here. And then some notes below. You'll notice that some of these seem word for word. Those were probably in red. Some of them seem like they were a little bit summarized. And this is an example of some of the ones that were summarized right here. You can see that I cut down those big paragraphs to try and make them a little more digestible. After the example section, or the notes section, we went on to examples. And I made sure to include some notes and show some work before I gave a final answer in sentence form. Sentence form you can see right there for both of the example problems. And then finally, after we have the example section, you'll see that you should have your practice section. And that's a whole separate heading. Again, scribbles from me because I want you to work on it on your own. Alright class, this has been a terribly weird experience, listening to my own voice with you and watching my own video. But I'm going to leave you with that practice problem, and that's what I expect you to do, working quietly and individually for the next few minutes. I'll talk to you soon.